Another guide so soon? I thought this was Sonic Dolphin 117's channel I'm watching. What is this? Well, it is, and I'm back with another guide for one of my favorite characters, Arbiter. A character I think is very looked down upon. Not as much as Kim Woo, but since nerfs back in 3.7, he's been... Actually, was it 3.7 or 3.6? I actually forget which one it was, but he got a really heavy slam in that patch, and everyone's like, this character's dead now. And while this character is really tricky, he's not that bad. I think you can have some pretty good success if you have good patience and have the right mindset with this character. Arbiter is mainly a footsies and setup character with some amazing buttons and amazing range and some great tools to keep the opponent locked down. And his goal is to keep control of the screen space. I cannot emphasize this enough, and I will say it again and again throughout this throughout this guide. You need to make sure you keep your space with this character. And you also want to use his tools to keep control of the enemy so that they don't get too wild on you and get past all your stuff. Arbiter's issues, he has defense issues. He doesn't have very good reversals. He does have reversals, which I'll get into later, but they're not very good. His size leaves him open to a lot of cross-up shenanigans and things hitting him faster. His anti-airs are good, but not the best, and they have some odd inputs to them as well, which mean that he can have some trouble dealing with enemies that are above him. He has to deal with a lot of resource management, so you can't go nuts with all of his tools, otherwise you'll find yourself crippled for the match. And his damage output is okay. He builds up ender levels quickly enough if you use heavies, but if you use any linkers, it scales pretty much. So 50%, that's not bad for one shadow linker. So he doesn't get nearly as much damage off of lower level enders as he used to. So you need to keep that in mind that at lower levels, you might want to go for setups more often than you go for damage. So let's talk about Arbiter's mobility. His walk speed and his dash speed aren't that great, but I think his dash is actually pretty decent, in my opinion. It's somewhat slow, doesn't go very far, but it does work when it counts. But, you know, don't use this too much. You should probably be walking more anyway, so you can have your normals at the ready. And his jump is average enough. He goes kind of high, and he has some normals that he can use to help his jump as well. Alright, so how about we talk about Arbiter's normals? And I'm going to say this right now, this is the most important part of this guide. With Kim Woo, both her normals and her specials sort of had equal footing because they were both really good sets, and they were equally important to her game plan. Arbiter, his normals matter way more than his specials do. So keep that in mind when you're watching this guide. So Standing Light Punch is 6 frames, has okay range and is mashable, but you really should never use this button because it can be crouched under and it doesn't link into his fastest opener, which is this lunge, which I'll get into soon. This is really just not a good idea to use ever. You can target chain it into his Standing Light Kick for some flip out stuff. Here, I'll go to the corner. But there's really not even a reason to use that because they're both lights anyway. You're not making it hard to break. So, you know, it's really only good for frame traps and for confirming off this button. But again, you should never be using this button in general, if you ask me. Standing Light Kick is Arbiter's fastest button, his 5-frame normal. Has decent range, and it also flips out opponents, so if someone's trying to jump when they're close to you, they'll get flipped out, and you can keep them locked down. You can also do juggle stuff in the corner with flip outs. I didn't actually have to throw a grenade there, and I'll get into grenades later, I promise. So this should be the light button that you default to pretty much every time. Standing Medium Kick. This is Arbiter's faster poke option at 9 frames. Oops, I did a different move by accident there. This is 0 on block, which is pretty decent for a poke. And it helps Arbiter keep his spacing and pushes the opponent back a bit to help him put them into his other normal ranges. So this should be your go-to poke when the opponent is just a little bit too close for you to use your sword normals. Because it's just generally faster and has better pushback. Sorry, I have the hiccups all of a sudden. This should also be your whiff punish button, etc., etc. And close medium kick is actually a really good button because it's really plus on hit and also +3 on block, which is really, really good for frame traps where you can meaty someone on wake up. In fact, let me... And right after that, if they get hit by it, you can link into this. And if they block it... Wait, oops. There we go. It's not that tight a link. It's like 4 frames, so... And if they block it, we'll have him block this. You can link that in there, and that's a 2-frame frame trap, which is really good. So this should be one of your meaty buttons on the opponent's wake up, and also one of your main pressure buttons. Close medium kick. And you can also do it for some, you know, I already talked about manual chains, but you can also do stuff like this. So, keep that in mind. I'll get into that first button later, which is also really, really good. So, standing medium punch. Arbiter has 4 grounded sword normals that all have a specific gimmick to them that I will talk about when I get to the last one. Standing medium punch is the first one. As you can see, it has great range, but it's somewhat slow at 11 frames. For its range, this button's fast enough, so don't let that scare you off, and it's 0 on block, so don't... Here's something I want to emphasize. Arbiter's specials are not very good as far as pressure goes, so you should rarely ever want to cancel these normals. You should just use them by themselves and make the opponent annoyed, because this is 0 on block, you're both in the same spacing, except they're a little further away, and you can start playing this game of just keeping them out. And there are some better sword buttons that I'm about to get to. Standing heavy punch is, in fact, the best one of these. This has good range, not as much range as this, but it's got good range. It's somewhat slow at 15 frames. But it can act as an anti-air in some scenarios, depending on where the enemy is. And the best part of this button is that it's +4. This should be your go-to button for pokes. Like, it will keep the opponent stuck while you frame trap them from a distance with all these other buttons. You should always use this to stall rounds and build meter. That is your main goal when it comes to poking opponents, is stall the round to build up your resources and build meter. If you don't have the life lead, then this becomes a worse strategy, obviously. But, of course, you're trying to keep the life lead. If you have it, then you can take full advantage of Arbiter's poking abilities with this amazing +4 button. This is also a good meaty as well, because it's got some... It's only active for 4 frames, so it's not the best, but it can help meaty backdashes and keep you plus on block as well. Alright. Yeah, again, use this button a lot. Crouching light kick. This is 7 frames, so it's not that great, but it's got good range, and Arbiter has trouble covering this distance from him, so you might want to use this often. It's +1 on block, which is okay, I guess. And also it's got... I'm not actually sure about this. I need to test this right now. Yeah, it's got some weird counter hit properties on it as well. You can actually chain into a medium kick if you're lucky. So that's kind of cool. Arbiter doesn't rely on counter hits that much, even though they, you know, you're going to get them every once in a while you're poking the opponent, obviously, but unlike Kimwoo, he can't convert off them as well, I find, because of how slow his buttons are, but you'll find your scenarios. Crouching medium kick is Arbiter's only low, and it is a soft knockdown. It's not a hard knockdown. Let me show. This is a soft knockdown. This is not a hard knockdown. Arbiter does not have a hard knockdown button. The only way Arbiter's getting a hard knockdown is through this, which I'll talk about later. You can't do it with this button. However, you can cancel this button into a lunge for a combo, or you can cancel it into grenade. Wait. Or you can cancel it into grenade for... Why is he doing that? Oh man, the inputs are messing me up. Yeah, I can do that, I guess. But the problem is I'm pressing down to back, and he's doing the shadow. There we go. You can do stuff like that if you want, if you've got good hands. There we go. Again, more on the grenades later. Now you may be thinking this isn't that great a button, right? Because it's -1, 9 frames, and it's a soft knockdown, right? Like, why would I want to use this? Well, the thing is, this is Arbiter's only low option. So you want to make use of this as much as possible when you're doing mix-ups, because Arbiter is mainly a character that relies on overheads, and people will default to block high against this character. So you want to mix this in every once in a while just to annoy people. And it's got good speed and covers this range that Arbiter has trouble covering a lot of the time when an opponent gets in. And one more thing you can do is that you can actually chain this into a recapture if you have a grenade on them. Oops. Okay, give me a sec. And do stuff like that if you have a grenade, which makes the low option a lot more threatening. And you can even do easier stuff like this. Oops, I completely screwed that up. Give me a sec. So yeah, you can do some fun stuff like that. So make sure you use this. Not a lot of pro players who use this character remember this button exists, but you want to make use of it. And they buffed it recently to have more range. So yeah, make use of this button because the developers seem to clearly use it. Crouching medium punch is Arbiter's third sword normal. It's about the same as standing, except slightly slower by 1 frame. But you should use this more often than standing medium punch, in my opinion, because even though it's slightly more minus by a frame, it covers the ground. And Arbiter, like I said with his other 2 crouching buttons, Arbiter has trouble covering the ground. So you want to make use of this button a lot and use it, and don't cancel it, just use it the same way you use these buttons as well. Whenever I'm fighting against a Saberwolf player, I always alternate between this and this, which is the next button I will talk about. I always alternate between this, this, and this, just to keep him guessing. Like, he can't slide under that, so I want to always use this, and it annoys the hell out of some Wolf players, believe me. So yeah, these 3 sword buttons are generally used to keep the opponent out of Arbiter's worst range, which is around here. And you want to keep them at this range so that you can stall for time and build resources, like I've said numerous times. And again, I think standing heavy punch is the best one because of its plus frames, but these other buttons shouldn't be ignored either. So what else? Alright, the last grounded sword normal is crouching heavy punch. This is one of Arbiter's main anti-airs, and it covers a space ahead of Arbiter. Keep that in mind. It does best at covering a space ahead of him. It's not the best at covering his head. This anti-air used to be really bad, I found, but they buffed it. But the developers buffed it in the recent patch in a lot of small ways that make it a lot better of an anti-air. So make sure to use this often, and you can also convert it. Let me have him jump. You can also convert it into stuff like that, which is small damage, but it works. And on that topic, we're going to talk about what makes the grounded normals, the grounded sword normals, Dang it, I can't start the sentence right. Let me repeat that. Let's talk about what these ground sword normals have in common. And it's the fact that they can actually target combo into medium punch or heavy punch. So that's the medium punch. That second hit you see there. And, oops, and this is the heavy punch, which is that downward swipe. And all of them look the same, no matter which normal you're doing it off of. Obviously, heavy hits harder, and medium has a bit more range, but it actually has less range than standing medium punch. I think even less range than standing heavy punch, so you can often hit this and then whiff this. That'll happen. And in general, these target combos are used to help you confirm into combos from range. But honestly, guys, don't use these too often. You should use them every once in a while. If you think that you're going to clip somebody and you want to give yourself more time to react with an opener. But the problem is with these is that they're more minus on block, and you kind of need all the positive frames you can get with these buttons, so I recommend not using these target combos too often. Use them every once in a while. If you get the guy, great, confirm. You know, if you press a button once and hit a guy and you don't get the confirm, it's not a big deal because they're still far away from you. But if they block this, you might be in a worse position than you think. And you don't want that to happen. So use these target combos for juggles, like I mentioned earlier, and use them every once in a while for confirming from range. But again, use these by themselves more often. That's my advice. And they're also shadow counterable, which is another weakness to them. Alright, so let's talk about Arbiter's jumping normals. Crouching light buttons aren't that great, so don't bother with these. Crouching medium kick is Arbiter's cross-up. That's pretty much all you need to know. There's not much else to this button that you need to know. Why did I say crouching? Jumping medium punch is Arbiter's go-to air-to-air because it helps him retreat from his opponent, very similar to how Glacius uses Ice Lances, except I don't think this has a hurt box on it, so it's even better. Again, this should be your go-to retreating go-to retreating air-to-air button. And it will beat out a lot of air-to-air options and help you get away. And jump heavy punch is good because it reaches below Arbiter in front of him, which allows you to get a lot of confirms and make your jump a little bit safer. And Arbiter's main command normal is forward medium kick. This lurches Arbiter forward with a thrusting kick and pushes the opponent very far. And this acts as a wall splat, which is Arbiter's only wall splat option. And Arbiter doesn't really get that much off wall splats, to be frank, but it's nice that he has one. A big issue with this move is not only its 19 frame startup, but also its minus 14 on blocks. You always have to cancel this move. It may be a good idea to delay your special cancel to try and frame trap someone. But yeah, make sure you always cancel this if it doesn't hit, because you will get punished super hard if you don't. And one thing that I like doing with this button... oops, let me reset that. Is stuff like that, where you push enemies into your grenade setups, which can be really, really useful, but of course very situational. Don't expect it to happen that often. But it's cool when it happens, and I feel really good when I manage to land one of those. So yeah, keep that in mind. And again, it's a wall splat, so you can do stuff like this. Wait, oops. So yeah. Or you can stick it to him and... Wait. And that adds more stun, or you can combo into grab off this as well. You can't really manual this button in combos because it's pretty slow. So keep that in mind. Don't use this as a poke too often. You should more be using it for combo pressure and setups. Alright, so now time to talk about the heavy kick button, which is Arbiter's gun, which is called the Carbine. This gun has limited ammo, which you can see on that gun symbol right above Arbiter's second shadow bar. And you expend these bullets by pressing heavy kick. It has a bit of startup, but it fires an extremely fast bullet that does a lot of damage. And with the limited ammo count, you want to use this gun sparingly, but not so much that you have half a clip. Like, you don't want to look like this when the match ends. Like, you want to use them just enough so that you always have access to them, but don't use them too little that you have all your bullets and you die. Like, that's not a good idea at all. So what else do I have here? The Carbine can shoot up to 3 bullets in one burst. You can't space them as well as you used to be able to in the air. So don't think you can do the early Season 3 stuff with the Unbreakables. You can't do that anymore. But you can delay them on the ground, which is something I like doing to catch people. Because people like to stop blocking and then suddenly they just get clipped by a second one. I do this a lot, and it catches a lot of people. Do not use this up close. This is minus 22. This is minus 12 on hit. You are actually going to get punished for using this up close. And if you use it on block, you are so screwed. So be careful not to do that. What else? So this Carbine can be aimed in 3 directions. If you just press nothing and press it, it shoots straight across the screen. If you crouch, it shoots at this upward angle, which is good for anti-airs situationally, and it also is great against characters like Sadira and Gargos, who like flying high up in the far range of the stage. You can just snipe them right out of the air. It's really, really fun. And it's also good against characters like Rash and stuff. And the Jumping Carbine shoots at a downward angle, which is really good because it allows you to jump in safely and even confirm into combos. It allows you to jump back and punish some moves you normally couldn't, and it also helps you retreat. So Jump Gun is probably the best version of it, but you shouldn't ignore these either. The Carbine is in general a very, very valuable tool. It makes the opponent more scared to move, which is something Arbiter desperately needs. If the worst thing that Arbiter wants, the last thing Arbiter wants, is for the opponent to be going wild and just flying all over him, because Arbiter can't really control people when they get on top of him, and that hurts him a ton. So you want to make sure you keep them at range, and you want to make sure you keep them controlled with this Carbine, because it's very fast and it'll make people scared because of its high damage output, as well as its PD build is also pretty decent as well, if you use the burst. And if Arbiter has no bullets left, so let me expend all these. Then, oh, oops, what was I doing? Huh, you can still do gun loops, how about that? If he has no bullets left, he will default to these Carbine Normals, which you can also do by holding forward and pressing heavy kick when you have Carbine bullets. And let me talk about each of these normals. Standing forward heavy kick is Arbiter's overhead button. And even though it looks slow at 17, it's actually the fastest overhead in the game under Aganos's standing close medium punch. At least I'm pretty sure that's true. So use this a lot for your up-close mix-up game. Jumping forward heavy kick places the gun in front of him, and it's really good for beating out a lot of aerials like Glacius Jumping Lance or other air-to-airs, because it has a lot of active frames on it, which means you can beat out a lot of stuff. And finally, the best one is crouching forward or down forward heavy kick. This is Arbiter's third anti-air option, and it's arguably his best one because it covers his head a lot better, and it also props opponents up for juggles a lot easier, I find. Let me have him jump. This is great for juggles. Especially in the corner. But it's very situational, and Arbiter doesn't have a way to cash out juggles, just flip out opponents, so don't expect too much out of it. The most you're getting is like this. Stuff like that. So yeah, that's the anti-air you should be defaulting to in general, unless the opponent is more further ahead. Use this one. The Carbine anti-air isn't great for up close. It's only good for mid-screen and far away, so... and also one problem with this button is that you have to hold forward while you're using it, which means if you're trying to anticipate a jump, the opponent can just go up and kick you in the face. So that's something I have a big issue with this move, is that the input is just bad. But it still should be your best anti-air option, and it's great at covering Arbiter's head. But this button is also incredible because of its frame data. This is plus 12 on hit and plus 6 on block, which means it's just a better version of close medium kick. And it's just really, really good. Let me show you. You can do stuff like this. Whoops. And just manual chain the hell out of people. You can also do that in combos. Damn it. I'm rusty today. It's actually not as hard as I'm making it look. You can do stuff like that. You used to be able to actually link 2 of these, which you could still do on counter hit, but it used to be even more plus, which was kind of insane. I think it was like plus 11 on block before. So you could literally just go up to people and just do this, and it would be a 2-frame gap. It was like, what the hell? Just be careful, because remember, it's plus 6. So if you're trying to frame trap this into this, that's not a frame trap. The opponent's just locked and block stun and going to get hit by it. So if you're going to frame trap someone, I recommend doing this into this. So keep that in mind. So yeah, that's it for the Carbine. So now we're going to talk about, real quick, Arbiter's throw. This throw has really poor range. Just look at that. Like, I think that's like Maya and Conra territory. But if you manage to land it, it launches the opponent up like this. You can't really juggle off it by itself, even in the corner. Like, I'm going to mash light kick right here. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. But if you tag a grenade in there, which I will talk about right after this, you can link in a light kick and go for some stuff. So how about we talk about those grenades? Right after shooting Cinder in the face. Arbiter can hold up to 3 grenades, which is symbolized by that square with the ×3 on the bottom left there. And they regenerate over time. And the timer for each grenade, I believe, is 18 seconds per grenade. So we're going to wait a sec. About 18 seconds, I believe. There we go. I had to wait there because the reset button restores the grenades. And this is the main reason why you want to be stalling people out. Like, you should be zoning people out while your grenades recharge, because you want grenades for defensive options as well, which I'll get into soon. And in general, you want to always have resources at all the times. This is also important for building your meter as well, like I've mentioned before. Again, very important that you make use of these normals without canceling them. I'll say that again. And you also, if you are ending a round and the opponent is dead and you are having a combo going, this is the main reason why you want to drag out rounds. With most characters, if they have battery enders, that's the reason they drag out rounds, because they want to build up meter. With Arbiter, your main reason for dragging out rounds and combos, you get the idea. Let me just throw it away where I won't get hit by it. You want to be doing stuff like this at the end of rounds to drag out the combo as long as possible so you can get those grenades back. Because grenades are very important, and let's talk even more about them. You can throw grenades with 3 punches, and if you hold left, it lobs it in the air. You hold nothing, it lobs it a little further, and if you hold forward, he chucks it across the screen. And you can also do this in the air as well, to sort of stall his jump, actually, which is kind of cool. Normals can also be canceled into these, so you can easily apply them to enemies if you so choose. I like doing stuff like this. And just go for low mix-ups when they don't expect it. If you manage to cancel it right. Or you can do stuff like... oops. Oh my god. Stop doing that. So yeah, you can set them up even off a soft knockdown with that. So yeah, use this to apply grenades easily and keep the opponent stuck. And what do the grenades actually do? If they stick to the opponents, or I mean, if they collide with the opponents, they will stick to them and go off after a certain timer. I can't tell you how long the timer is, I don't know. But it's much shorter than regenerating them. And enemies will get hit by these grenades unless they are throwing you, or most characters. I think some throws get interrupted by it. I think Maya's does. Maya's and Arya's and Shago's throws get interrupted by it, I believe. And it will also not interrupt you if you're using projectile invulnerable moves. So if you stick this to someone and Cinder Shadow Trailblazers right through you, yeah, it's going to hit you and not him. And also, it can be blocked. It's very similar to Cinder's Pyro Bombs. And speaking of hitting yourself, Arbiter gets hit by his own grenades. And will suffer the same damage and effects as the opponent does. And the grenade explosion recaptures and staggers opponents depending on where they are on screen. If they're in the air, it will recapture them. If they're on the ground, it will stagger them. And if you are the opponent with a grenade on you, or for whatever reason you know that the grenade is going to hit both you and your opponent, you want to be in the air. Because the recapture recovers faster than the stagger. So if you get recaptured and they get staggered... Wait, let me try and get this right. My goodness, I suck. I keep doing it too early. You want to be the one getting recaptured because you recover faster. But of course, it's better to just block it or push through it with a throw or projectile invincible move. So, because of the recapture and stagger, it's very easy for Arbiter to confirm into a combo if it so hits the opponent and he didn't get affected by it. So these are very valuable because the opponent doesn't want to go wild while a grenade is on them, because they know if they jump and it goes off, Arbiter gets a free combo off it. But some enemies don't care about grenades. They'll go wild on you, they'll try and grab you, they'll try and projectile invulnerable through them, and you just have to be ready for that. But these are generally used to condition the opponent and to go for setups as well. And you don't even have to stick it to the opponent like I showed you earlier. You can just go for stuff like this. And the opponent, and if you know the grenade's there and the opponent doesn't, well, you just surprise the hell out of them. What else? Oh yeah, be very careful because, like I said, the grenades can also hurt Arbiter, and while the opponent is throwing you, they're invulnerable to them for most characters. Some characters can even use the grenade against you to get a recapture off a throw that they normally wouldn't. Some examples include Rash. If he throws you at the right time, the grenade will explode on you and he can combo off his throw. I think, yeah, it really depends on the character, but it can happen sometimes, and it's pretty funny, but also sad, because you spent that grenade only to get comboed by it. So yeah, that's it for grenades by themselves. And Arbiter's main combo trait is that after any ender or throw, he can tack on a grenade or carbine shots immediately after it. So there's a grenade. And here I am mashing. I wasn't even holding a direction there. I was just mashing heavy kick. And using grenades in this way can actually let you link off of things you wouldn't normally be able to, such as the throw, for example, like I showed you in the corner, where if you throw a grenade, he recovers faster and you can flip out people. So yeah, grenades are really, really fun, and you should make use of them. But remember, they're a resource, and remember, when you're low on them, stall for time, keep the opponent away from you, and just piss them off. Okay, let's talk about Arbiters. Oh, actually, we got one more thing to talk about with grenades. I completely forgot, and it's down 3 punches, which makes Arbiter blow himself up with the grenade. This move is actually strike invulnerable until the grenade goes off, but it's still grab vulnerable, and characters can, again, projectile invulnerable move right through it. And it staggers Arbiter, which means if he does it incorrectly, he will get comboed by it. He will get comboed by his opponent because they'll see that he blew himself up like a dumbass. Now, you may think, wow, that's a stupid idea. Why would I waste a resource, do a little damage to myself, and open myself up just for the sake of a reversal, you know? Well, it's not great. It's high risk, little reward, but sometimes you gotta take what you can get when it comes to Arbiter's bad defense. Of course, I'm not saying you shouldn't block like a normal person, but again, you have to throw that in every once in a while. However, there's something very good about this reversal, and it's when Arbiter has Overshield, which I will talk about soon. But let's just do a little sneak peek of it now. Arbiter can just blow it in his face, and he suffers no stun, which makes this pretty much a risk-free reversal. Let me show you. You can just... Oh my god, why am I sucking at this? You can just do dumb stuff like this. If you wanted to. It's not recommended, obviously. You just wasted all 3 of your grenades, but there's actually some fun combos you can do with this. Oops, wait. Actually, there's one combo that my friend Kev Bones showed me, which is really cool, if you're willing to spend 2 grenades on it. Actually, I think I did it wrong. Let me try that again. Oops. My god, I suck. I didn't even put up my shield that time. Why am I so bad at this? I haven't really practiced this. Oh, it's because he has PD on him. That's why it's not working. Let me try that again. That's pretty cool. But it's kind of costly, so I wouldn't recommend you do that. But yeah, because of the fact that he doesn't get stunned by this, and it's strike invulnerable, this is godlike. This reversal is just ridiculous when he has shield up. Because it's pretty much risk-free. And if the opponent blocks it, then you're still plus on block because you suffered no stun. So it's really, really, really good. You still shouldn't do it all the time, but it's a lot like Kilgore's pre-patch self-destruct. It's like, why wouldn't you use this, right? But again, it's still grab vulnerable, so you need to be careful against opponents who are seeing it coming. And they can still projectile immune through it and body you. So keep that in mind when you're using it. Alright, finally time. Let's move on to Arbiter's special moves. So first up is Quarter Circle Forward Punch, which is Mercy's Demise, which is this lunge move, and strength determines range and power and startup. So this is the light version, this is the medium version, and this is the heavy version, which goes full screen, and it's okay. The medium and heavy versions are... The light version is -3, so characters like Jago can punish it, and the medium and heavy versions are -6, which means a lot of characters can jab punish it. Can jab punish it if they're in range. This move has a bit of pushback, so you might be saved from that sometimes, but don't count on it. Lunge. It's meant... Which is close range, right? But if the opponent is backing off, there's a lot of instances where Arbiter will just straight up whiff right in front of them, even if he didn't go full screen. And that can leave you open. So again, this isn't a very good, reliable neutral tool, if you ask me. And I would not use this at all unless you already have a confirm ready off of stuff like this. And of course, if you have a grenade out and you're doing stuff like this, that's also a good option. But again, I don't think it's great for anything other than confirms. So don't use it too often. The shadow move version is pretty self-explanatory. Dashes forward a bit. Let me see the distance on it. So that's max distance right there. And it hits 5 times. This is his more damaging Shadow Linker, I believe. So if you're fixing for damage in a combo and for opener damage, then you should use this all the time, because Arbiter doesn't have a Shadow Damage Ender, so you need to make use of this. And the Linker version is a corner carry. And the Ender version is a little bit special. So this is his hard knockdown Ender, quote unquote. This is the one that puts the opponent on the ground for the longest. But there's 2 more things you want to know about this. One, it launches the opponent up faster than any of his other Enders do. So when you're doing grenade setups and you're seeing that the grenade is about to blow, then you want to use this to get him in the air. That was a bad example, but let me... Yeah, that was also a horrible example. If you want to get him in the air as quick as you can, you use that Ender. And one more thing about this is that, like the throw, if you do this, any version, and you stick a grenade there, you can actually quickly flip them out before they land if you've got really good timing. So, or you can do stuff like this. Yeah, fun stuff. So just remember that this should be your go-to flip-out Ender if you have a grenade. And this works off of any strength of the Ender. And also remember, if you're recapturing someone, you can do stuff like this. And remember, you can combo this into grab. So that adds to a bit of his combo options there. So that's it for Mercy's Demise. It's not that special of a move. It's a simple lunge. So just keep that in mind. Now we have Truth Seeker, Quarter Circle Back Punch. This is Arbiter's overhead slash, and it also is a low crush. This is the light version, and it has really good range, deceptive range, actually. Let me see the startup of it. Like, this is the range. This is kind of ridiculous. It's way more than it looks. And it's -2 on block with 24 frame startup. The medium version goes a lot further, but it's quite a bit slower, and it's 0 on block. And the heavy version goes very far, not full screen, but very far, and is +2, I believe. Yeah, +2. So this move is also good at anti-airing opponents who jump back, but that's a situational thing, and you'll never do it intentionally. But the hitbox is very, very tall, so it's pretty good anti-air as well. And one thing I like using the light punch version for is every time I do a combo breaker on my end with Arbiter, I sometimes just go into this, because it'll catch the opponent at the range his combo breaker sends them, from my experience, and if they jump, it'll still hit them. So they have to block it and take the -2, or they have to like dash backwards, which is where Arbiter wants them to go most of the time. So yeah, this is a really good choice after a combo breaker, I find. And it's just a really good poking tool, and it's instantly confirmable because it's an opener. And again, it's also an overhead, so people will get caught by this. It's also a good frame trap tool as well, which will catch a lot of people. But don't try to confirm too often with this, because it's pretty slow, as you can see, where this is just really easy. So it's a really, I think this is a really underrated move, and it's used in the wrong ways. I think the light version is the best version of this. I think a lot of people think the heavy version is better because it helps him get in a little easier, but I think this is overall a better option. And it steps him forward a bit, which is good in some scenarios. The Shadow version. This goes pretty far. Actually, it doesn't go very far at all. What am I talking about? This goes about the range of the medium version. What's the hitbox on this? Okay, it's a pretty long hitbox, so it's going to hit from a pretty far range. Actually backed up a little more. So yeah, about right past that. And it hits 5 times rapidly, and it's -1 on block. It's also got projectile invulnerability, but I'm going to tell you this right now, guys. You should never be using this move, ever. You should really never be using this unless you're trying to mix up your Shadow Linkers, because it's just not a good move. You can also do stuff like this, which is kind of fun. Wait, let me actually... I'm doing this way too early. Let me show you. You can confirm into these if the grenade's blowing up, which is kind of cool. One thing I like to do is actually put this up. Man, I'm so bad at this. My goodness. Why am I so bad? I'm so trash, guys. Oh my god. Stuff like that, where you can sort of make the grenade explode on your time and link it into the heavier versions, which is kind of fun. You can do that with the Shadow version as well. And it's a little safer because of the projectile invulnerability. But the projectile invulnerability kind of stops once you start hitting the opponent. So I find that it's really just not good at getting through projectiles and punishing them. Plus, it's relatively slow compared to most projectile immune moves. So yeah, I would recommend you just never use this move if you can avoid it. And only use it for mixing up your Shadow Linker options. Because even in this scenario, even though it's slightly more reliable than this other option, you can still use this. But I guess if you want to link it without a shield, I suppose you'd want to go for the Shadow version here, but if you're just gonna link this, then wait. If you're just gonna link this, then just use the normal version. I think that's just a better idea. So yeah, don't use this move often. This move acts as a linker. And both his linkers I find are pretty easy to break. They have longer break windows than they look, so it can be a little annoying. This character is kind of easy to break if you know what you're doing, especially considering he only has 3 kinds of autos. He doesn't have. Those are all the autos he has. He doesn't have light and kick differences. And the last thing about this move is that the Ender version is a ground bounce, which is an amazing corner carry and lets him flip out no matter what, even if he doesn't have grenades. This thing is an amazing corner carry, like I said. But he can't juggle off much. If you cancel into a grenade, you can get some lows, I think. Low in there. But other than that, in general, you shouldn't be using grenades off that. It's really good for corner carry, though, like I said. And the Arbiter does like the corner, because his mix-up game isn't the best, but he's got an overhead, he's got a low, and he's got a command grab, which I'm about to talk about. So, you know. And he's got all these plus buttons for frame traps, so he likes the corner. I think every character does, in general. Except maybe some characters like Sadira, who rely on cross-ups a lot, but I don't know. So how about we talk about Prophet's Bane, which is quarter circle back kick. This is a command grab that does that. The range and hitbox changes depending on what version you use. This is the light kick version, which will hit enemies extremely close to Arbiter. The medium version steps quite a bit further. And the heavy version goes really far. It can actually nail opponents from like here, which is probably the biggest range for a command grab in the game, which is pretty amazing. But keep in mind the heavy version will actually miss opponents up close. The light version doesn't have this problem, but if you use the heavy version from a close confirm, you're going to get punished because the recovery is really high, and you just whiff them entirely. So just be careful about that. And also, a big flaw with this command grab is that it's really slow. It's a 27 frame command grab. I think that's around the same time a shatter takes. So maybe a little faster than shatter, but yeah, you're gonna get this move is gonna get jumped a lot by experienced players. So it's a very, very risky move to try and go for. I would recommend you use it at very surprising times. Just do this, don't cancel it, and then just do this. Or just randomly do it from this range. Try to do it in a situation where the opponent would not expect you to use it. Is my suggestion. Because experienced players, like I said, if you just go for stuff like this, like, a lot of people will jump it. A lot of people will jump it more than you think. And of course, don't try to do it off a low, because if it hits, then you're getting punished. Unless you're somehow confident the opponent's going to block your low, which that was the point of doing that in the first place. And that's the reason why you want to do stuff like stick a grenade on them. So let's get Cinder to jump. Because like if you whiff the grab, then you can still have them recapture and not be able to punish you. And you might both get hit, and that's fine. And you might even get a combo depending on your timing. So if you're going to go for a command grab, I recommend you stick a grenade first, because that just in general makes the opponent less likely to try and jump, because they don't want to get hit by the grenade and recaptured and stuff. They want to be on the ground blocking, which is where your grab is most effective. So combine grabs with grenades as often as you can, or like I said, do them in the most surprising places that you can. And remember that its range is freaking stupid. And of course, you can also combo off grenades if your timing is good. Mine is not. And you can also keep in mind that you can also use tacking on Carbine, because I forgot to mention, you can tack on grenades after this command grab as well. Just like throws and enders. And you can also tack on bullets to try and extend the time. Like this. To make sure you get the combo. So let me try that again. Usually just one bullet is enough. So keep that in mind. You can do stuff like that. Combine grabs with grenades. That's usually the best way to use them. Or again, I know I'm repeating myself a lot here, but you can occasionally throw this in. Just remember that it's a lot less safe than his overhead and low options. So make sure to keep that in mind. And that's his main throw mix-up because, yeah. What else? Oh, yeah. So this only acts as an ender, and it's Arbiter's most damaging ender. And this is the ender a lot of people like to use because he gets a grenade off it anyway, which means you can still go for overheads and lows and stuff. So you get the idea. The Shadow version is probably one of the most interesting shadows he has, where he, after a short startup, he goes invisible and cannot be attacked. And once the move is over, it will automatically lock onto the opponent and grab them no matter where they are or what distance they are from Arbiter. If they are jumping, it will miss like normal, but it doesn't matter if they're far away. It doesn't matter if they're close by. It doesn't matter if they're walking or dashing, which I can't really show off as well. It will hit them on the ground no matter where they are. And you can hold this or let it go as early as you want. If you don't hold it, you can just do this. Or if you hold it, you can hold it and release it whenever time you feel like. You can wait a little bit. You can wait a few seconds if you feel like it. And what's great about this is this combined with grenades. What I like to do often is I like to tack a grenade on someone from full screen, and once they're stuck, I just do this. And then I test them. I'm like, okay, the opponent's job now is to try and get it to where they don't get comboed, right? So they're going to try and jump your command grab, but they also have the grenade on them as well, which means if you time your command grab right and miss on purpose early, you can still get a combo off them getting recaptured. So what the opponent wants to do is they want to get it to where they are blocking the grenade while the grab goes through them, so that you miss and they can combo you. That's the best timing the opponent wants. And for you, you're just trying to land the grab or the combo. So sometimes you'll want to do it early for people who block early, and maybe even get the combo if you're lucky. Or sometimes you'll want to wait a bit for the grenade to explode, and then try and do it around here before the grenade explodes. Maybe a little earlier than that, but you get the idea. And this tactic is really good for two things. One, getting Arbiter close from full screen in case he wants to start rushing down, because his zoning is limited. Or I like to do this for closing out rounds when the opponent has just a bit of health left, because the chances of them surviving this setup if you do it right is like not good. You know, the Shadow version does the same amount as the normal versions, granted. It's not that much damage, but if it's enough for you to close out a round, I'd say it's worth the resources. It's almost guaranteed if you know what you're doing. So yeah, that's probably one of his better uses for meter, but it's not his best use. And this doesn't act as a Shadow Ender. It'll just do normal, and once the opponent sees this, they're just gonna get... they're just gonna jump and body you. And that's another thing. Don't use this if you don't have a grenade on them, because all the opponent has to do is hold up. Like, let me reset and have him jump. All the opponent has to do is hold up, and they'll dodge it no matter what, as long as they don't press a button. If they press a button, you can trip guard them, but yeah, just don't go for this if you don't have a grenade on them already to do stuff like this. Or maybe not that. Man, I'm trash. I'm so garbage, man. Yeah, it's kind of hard because the recapture recovers faster than the stagger, like I mentioned. So you want that stuff to happen. Just try to make the situation as best for you as possible. That's your job and the opponent's job. But use it right, and you can close out rounds really easily and get in from full screen with just a grenade and a meter. Alright. Now we're going to talk about a Shadow Move only special, which is quarter circle forward, 2 kicks. I forget the name of this, so forgive me for looking in the command list. Energy Shield. So, for quarter circle forward, 2 kicks. Oh my god. This is Energy Shield. And you can also use this while your shield is full, by the way. You can just do this. There's no reason to do it, but you can. Unless, of course, you're slightly depleted and you want to refill it. And basically, this does what it says. It refills his shield. It's very, very fast, so just doing it in neutral is not really a problem. You won't get punished when you're just spacing and suddenly decide to do this. Punishing this is very hard if you give yourself a little space. And also, this acts as a reversal. It's completely invulnerable. But it is -11, and its short range will mean it can get baited easily if the opponent is ready for it. And it also does literally 0 damage. So, again, Arbiter doesn't have good reversals, but take what you can get, you know? And I think this should be your go-to use of meter, and I'll get into why in this next paragraph that I wrote in my script. So, this shield can be gained through the Shadow Move that I just talked about, or through Instinct, where it regenerates over time. So let me... Alright. My Instinct is still active, so you see it's regenerating. So this shield represents 7% extra health. This health works the same way as your normal health does. Anything that damages you is going to damage your shield. And if you constantly use this, getting 7, plus 7, plus 7, plus 7 throughout the match, Arbiter can become one of the tankiest characters in the game by technicality. So that sort of helps him. It's not that big a deal. You'll probably only get like, what, 33, 35 extra percent if you pop this 5 times in a game. But, you know, it's pretty good. I don't know if it's better than Jago's healing, but it can be if you use it right. And here's the big thing about it. Overshield nullifies all projectile hit stun while it's active. So let me show you guys that. So, Cinder, you see he didn't flinch at all to that. He could just walk through whatever he wants without being slowed down by the projectile. In fact, let me turn on Infinite Instinct just so I can show it off a little easier. So yeah, he won't be stunned by this. He won't be stunned by this until the shield goes out. You saw that the shield went out there, but if I do it now, you see how he's not flinching for the first part of that? Which is really, really good. Which doesn't seem like much, but it's a few extra frames to react to stuff like this. Let me turn on my Instinct, actually. See that? He has just a few frames extra to be like, oh crap, I should do a shadow move, or maybe I should jump and Carbine shoot him, or something, you know? And this shield also helps him against certain moves that you don't expect it to. Like, watch this. He just got saved from a combo because the shield absorbed the Flame Pillar. Because this shield still works while he's in hit stun, until it runs out. So that means that he can survive a lot of stuff that some characters have trouble dealing with. Like, Cinder is the biggest example because he has a lot of projectile-focused moves, right? Like, look at this. Fission, if he does Shadow Fission, Arbiter can literally just kick him in the face in the startup of it. In fact, let me show that off. He does not give a crap. I'll get into what you just saw earlier. Later. And one more thing, and more things like that, is that Spinal and Aria, everyone knows that those characters are really hard to shadow counter, right? Because, and Kim Woo as well, if you watched my guide, those characters are hard to shadow counter because they can throw in a projectile to try and stuff your shadow counter, like skulls or assists or dragons. Arbiter don't give a fuck. Arbiter doesn't care, because while he's in shield, the projectile doesn't stop his shadow counter nor trigger it. So that means that he can easily shadow counter people through their own projectiles, which really helps him in those matchups. And that's really important to note. This shield can save your ass in ways you never expected it to, but just be careful because it is only 7% health. So don't try to like zoom through projectiles that do a lot of damage, because blocking with your face only works so much. But if you see Jago throw a fireball, you can lunge right in, or you can do a command grab through it, which is also awesome because of its range. And they never see it coming. Like, you see a fireball, lunge. You see a fireball, command grab. Right through it, doesn't matter. Of course, he still takes damage from these projectiles, but it's worth it just to ignore them so that you can create better situations for yourself. And of course, this shield pop also lets him take better use of his grenades, like I mentioned earlier, because he doesn't need to worry about it blowing up in his face, because he doesn't get stunned by it. So yeah, you want to make sure that you have shield on you at all times possible. This is the main reason you're building up meter with these normals, is because you want to pop this and just keep it. You know, even if you're not going to do anything with it, even if the opponent doesn't have projectiles, just try to keep your shield on you, because it's extra health that you are missing out on. If you're sitting on 2 meters with Arbiter, you're doing it wrong. Like, if you have a spare meter, pop this shield. I don't even care if your shield is slightly up, just not full. Pop it again, make it full. I don't care. Just don't sit on 2 meters with this character. Your use for meter should be damage in combos with this, should be closing out rounds and getting in with this, and but most of all should be this. Just popping this shield and going nuts with it. No. That is 7% health free that you are sitting on. Don't let that happen. Is there anything else I got on this? Oh, also, Rash's tongue won't stun him, and it also does 0 damage. So you pop this against Rash, and his tongue pressure just got a whole lot worse. That's another example of why this thing is so useful. And now, the last part of this guide, we're going to talk about Arbiter's Instinct, which is triggered right now. Like I said before, it regenerates his shield over time for as long as it's active. But it also gives Arbiter the ability to parry attacks. This is done by pressing heavy punch, heavy kick, and this can also be done in the air, which is something a lot of people don't actually know, which is pretty funny. I find this unreliable to do with the actual buttons. I like macroing it to the right stick because I don't like getting Carbine instead, especially up close. Like, watch this. Like, now I'm punishable, right? But this is really useful for punishing some attacks or throwing out shadows that just come your way. Like, watch this. So let me record. And it allows them to punish moves you couldn't normally, but it's really tricky, I find, to get the timing down for the punish. There we go. You see the punishment right there? You can punish a lot of moves you normally couldn't, which is really important. I don't think that was actually a punish. This move is particularly hard. There we go. You can do stuff like that. Just make sure you do it for each hit. And also, because of the air parry, if you are willing to believe someone's going to reversal you, for example. 1, 2... Wait, sorry, I did that wrong. You can do stuff like that when you're jumping in to try and beat people trying to anti-air you in. So that, it's very situational. I'm not good at using this parry. I'm just going to be straight up honest with that. But yeah, this parry can be very useful in certain situations if you practice it, practice your opponent's habits, or work around them, I should say. And you can do some stuff with it. But like I said, it's not the best. It does have very low recovery for a parry in the game, so it's not very risky to use. It does have a small catch window, but it's also got small recovery, so make use of this if you can. And throw this out every once in a while to try and get people to stop pressing buttons against you. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Arbiter. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Remember what I've been emphasizing the entire time. And make use of this crazy stuff. Anyway, guys, I'll see you all next time, and adios.